Hi, this is the story of the king crab. Specifically, we'll talk about how the species has come dangerously close to the point of extinction. I'm sitting in front of my laptop with my notes and links that I will share at the end of the video. We'll talk about the reasons and the events that have led up to this extinction event. We'll see why you should care, and then we'll wrap up this video with some thought provoking ideas. I'm Rupendra, this is Curvature Field. Let's start. Let's start from NOAA, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. If we go to their website, these people at NOAA, they do a lot of research monitoring the health of ocean and the atmosphere, as their name suggests, and the various species of animals and plants that inhabit those environments. So in August 2019, NOAA released this report which focused on Alaska's changing environment. And this was done in collaboration with the University of Alaska Fairbanks and International Arctic Research Center. If we look into the report, it goes into quite a lot of detail on how the environment is changing, how seasons are changing. The wildfires are becoming more frequent, there are more smoky days, the temperatures are going up, there are fewer colder days. It talks about how rainfall is increasing, and then how the snow season is shrinking. I encourage you to go into this report as well, and there will be links at the bottom of the video. It talks about how sea ice is forming later, which means oceans are not covered by sea ice in winters, which increases the rate at which oceans are getting acidified because of absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And then it talks about how the land, plant, animals, and fishes and human settlements are changing and adapting to the changing environment in Alaska, the changing climate in Alaska. So within 2 months of this report, in October, NOAA kind of raises alarm bells by creating this article. So it says Alaska is actually warming faster. Alaska is warming faster than any other US state. So NOAA kind of wants to raise awareness of how important these changes are in Alaska. And it also uses this article to make people understand the most important parts of that report, because not everybody had the chance to go into that report. So now let's move to 2020 and see how the research is slowly getting focused into crabs. But remember, in 2020, the world gets hit by COVID. So we know things are kind of slow to focus, and we only see any movement on this topic in the last quarter of this year. So in October, we see a paper published in the Oxford's ICES Journal of Marine Sciences about the changing distribution of crabs in Bering Sea. And in November, we see this article from NOAA, which starts to theorize that maybe species are starting to move northward, or maybe are diving deeper, and they're doing that analysis on data that has been aggregated across 140 species, right? And then in December, things just start to kind of focus around crabs, where this article is talking about their population, changing their population in the Bering Sea, specifically about crabs. Right? And as we start to move into 2021, we see that there's not really any alarm bells going on in the general public. Articles are starting to appear regarding a low crab stock in general, but people are, if you look at Google, people are, just having these articles about cooking crab, videos about cooking crab, or this is from 2020 to 2021. And then if we look at another search result, specifically for king crabs. Again, this is about, there are videos about people going to hunting trips, etc. But there are certain articles about the volume of crab going down, and maybe that's why people are taking pride in showing off their catch. Maybe there is a certain back of mind idea where they know crab population is going down, but there's really no sign of panic in the public. As we move into September 2021, Alaska Department of Fish and Game cancels the fishing season, and as we also see one of the articles talking about that over here. And this has been done for the very first time in a very, very long time. So I want you to understand how hard this decision was. It was basically published under Mr. Doug Vincent Lang, who is the commissioner of that department of Fish and Game, Mr. Doug Vincent Lang, and you need to understand how hard this decision was for him and his team, because they would have had enormous pressure from industry, from politics, from their peers, about this thing when they took this decision. The thing is that they didn't have all the data to say if they should or shouldn't, right? Nobody had that data. But they did understand that if something is indeed going wrong, they could be the last line of defense for a species if there is trouble. And in this case, they probably were right. This team pretty much might have single-handedly saved the crabs from absolute extinction. They're pretty close to extinction, but they at least saved them from absolute extinction, probably this time. And so probably these guys are the real unsung heroes that we think about for planet Earth, and we probably need more people like these. So as we move to August 2022, we see an article from Washington Post, and they talk about the crab stock. They focus on crab stock. And they say that the crab stock is down 90%. The harvest went down from 45 million pounds to 5.5 million pounds. That's a lot, right? It also presents some competing theories, but there is no real definitive answer. There is an interview with Bob Foy, who is a director at the Alaska Fishery Science Center. And he's trying to make sense of the situation, right? He says we don't have data to specifically say what happened, right? And because there are a lot of earlier theories about migrations northwards, or species diving deeper. He also mentions so you need to know that NOAA has on the sea floor cameras that can be triggered by any specific movement of sea creatures, etc. So they also, Mr. Bob Foy also makes clear that the magnitude of biomass could not have moved. This magnitude of biomass could not have moved without us detecting it, right? The cameras would have seen it if there was some sort of a migration like that. So he says we believe that we had a very large mortality event, which points to an extreme event that we've never seen before in Bering Sea. So NOAA's giving a very strong indication that something big and bad has happened. So right after, in October 2022, Slate.com publishes this article, where they say there are almost 11 billion Alaskan snow crabs have disappeared. In fact, we see that they went from 11.7 billion in 2018 to 940 million in 2021, right? That's a 92% drop in the population. It's almost like a species level extinction event, right? Imagine if 92% of human population is wiped out. How would it look like? It would be like you're walking in once bustling streets like Mumbai, Laos, Beijing, and now they're all completely empty, right? Entire continents like Asia and Africa are absolutely devoid of human life. Any landmarks like Great Wall of China or Taj Mahal or pyramids, they're just standing completely in silence, untouched, pretty much getting drowned in the flow of time. Right? That's kind of how it will look like if 90% of the population gets wiped out. Right? And Dr. Lizzo also. So here there is an article, there is an interview from Dr. Lizzo, who's working at NOAA. Dr. Mike Lizzo, who's working at NOAA, and he says, and I'm going to paraphrase, he says, "We know that we cannot get the Bering Sea this warm without human-caused global warming." So at this time, there are competing theories, but work is going on to find a definitive answer on how exactly did this thing happen. Right? So let's skip to biology. Let's talk about biology a bit. So in mammals, in human beings, for example, when external temperature rises, our metabolic rate, our bodies try to reduce its metabolic rate. So our bodies sweat, we rest, we try to cool off our bodies. Right? That's what we do, trying to reduce our metabolic rate. In crustaceans, which crabs are, when external temperature increases, so does the metabolic rate. It's the reverse of what happens in mammals. So when water heats up, their metabolic rate also goes up. Why does that happen? Right now, we don't know. It was tested, and what was found was a 3-degree increase in temperature almost doubled their metabolic rate. That means when water heats up, the crustaceans or crabs get extremely hungry, because that's what happens when metabolic rate goes up. So it takes a year to figure it out. And in October 2023, NOAA publishes this detailed article on exactly what happened. And we'll just go through what this article says quickly. So in 2015, something called as a recruit event happened, which is basically a term used where a lot of baby crabs are born, and they're kind of getting recruited for subsequent fishing seasons, right? So that's why it's called a recruit event. And in 2019, as we just discussed, water is heating up, right? And that hot water causes a lot of problems for the crabs, because these crabs, the king crab, are a cold water species. So it reduces the amount of area they have to move around. So they are kind of hanging around in a smaller, reduced area, and their metabolism has increased, which means they're hungry, and the recruit event has happened, which means there are tons and tons of crabs that are growing up. So what happens is this causes massive food shortages in these smaller areas because of overhunting of whatever crabs are hunting, right? Another important thing to know is that crabs are actually cannibalistic species. So when they're super hungry, they can eat each other. So these were the two main reasons for the population collapse. Starvation of the young crabs due to shortage of food. There was just not enough food, and unfortunately, whatever young crabs remained, a lot of them were just cannibalized by the adult crab members. So this kind of begs the question, can the crabs recover? And at that time, Dr. Lizzo says, and I'm again going to paraphrase, these boreal conditions associated with the snow crab collapse are more than 200 times likely to occur in the present climate than in the pre-industrial era. And conditions favorable to snow crabs are very likely to continue declining in the future. So we've kind of sort of permanently screwed up the crab species now, I believe. It doesn't matter what NOAA says or does now, as long as we as humans don't change our behavior, or some magical event happens. For example, the temperatures for some reason just keep on staying down year after year, or multiple recruit happens for some weird reason, who knows. Unless any of those sort of things happen, crabs are not really coming back, so at least in the way they used to be. So that was the story of the crab up till now, and now we will talk about why should it matter to you. So why should you care? So crabs are somewhere in the middle of the food chain. They're the hunters and they are also the hunted. This means things that hunt them, larger fishes, turtles, octopuses, otters, other crabs, etc., they'll start going hungry and their population will decline. In fact, things that hunt them in turn will also decline, because now they cannot find the turtles, the octopuses, because now they don't have food, right? So it's a chain of event that happens. On the other side, things that crabs used to hunt, for example, worms, clams, snails, algae, etc., they will increase at an exponential rate. And what will that cause? That'll basically, these things will start overgrazing on whatever they eat, and that those things on which they are overgrazing, their population will go down. So these things are called skip level effects. Okay, it's similar to let's say you have a lush green savanna, and somehow, for some reason, the top level predator, for example the lions or the tigers, their population decreases. What happens is the animals they would hunt, for example the bison, the deer, etc., their population will increase, and now they'll start overgrazing, and that could potentially totally remove all the grass from the savanna, and can potentially turn the land into an arid land. So the land turned into an arid land because now the lions are no longer there. It's hard to imagine the correlation, but that could actually happen, right? So, and these are very hard to predict, and more of these will happen more than normal, because crabs are part of food chain for so many species, not just one, as we said. They are the hunters and the hunted, so the skip level effects will happen on both sides for so many species. Now, although we don't have enough information on how to predict how these things will unfold, we can at least learn from them. We can at least consider two different perspectives. I'd like to provide two different perspectives where we can learn from this disaster. One, we can think of oceans as giant active chemical reactions. Yep, it's literally trillions and trillions of square kilometers of liters of water with thousands of square kilometers of surface area interacting actively with trillions of cubic meters of atmosphere, which is basically oxygen and nitrogen, right? That level, now if there is a significant change in overall ocean chemistry because of some sort of mass biological change, some sort of bacteria can evolve, that can potentially, let's say, if it reproduces at a crazy scale, at a crazy rate, at a planet scale, we really don't have the mechanism to stop that, right? So, and believe it or not, things like that have started happening. So if you look at these news, now we are seeing blooms, bacterial blooms in different areas, and we are seeing warnings, for people to be careful, because they could be harmful, right? When in doubt, say out, right? So these things can harm humans now, and you never know if something like that happens, at a planet scale. That could be big trouble, right? What if a bacteria evolves that starts, let's say, consuming oxygen? Like, we're screwed then, right? Can this is this a hypothetical thing? Yeah, it is hypothetical, but similar stuff has happened in the past. At one point, Earth's atmosphere was basically carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor, and this was a long time ago, when Earth was formed, 4.5 billion years ago, right? And at that time, whatever was living used to breathe this, just like we breathe oxygen. And then there was a bacteria that randomly evolved. They were called Cyanobacteria, and they brought in with them a process called photosynthesis. It's a new process. They just know how to use methane in a different way, and they started using methane, breathing methane in a way, and then releasing oxygen and nitrogen, and they spread across the planet. It happened slowly, but they did spread across the planet, and they literally changed the makeup of our atmosphere. So basically, everything that used to breathe that atmosphere, methane, they basically died, and now we're here, right? So it's actually called the Great Oxidation Event, right? That's how big it was. So from a Earth history perspective, this is quite normal. This is if something like that happens again, it's not a crazy new thing. It has happened before. So yeah, it can absolutely happen now. And the bacteria doesn't have to consume oxygen. That's just one example. Although it can do something else. It can potentially be some random reaction. It can produce something poisonous, like we saw in those algal blooms, or it can do something which turns the whole climate situation even worse, right? Maybe some of you guys watching this video, maybe some of you guys can look at it from your PhD thesis perspective. Maybe then we'll have some options to kind of be considerate about and be careful about, right? Now, the second thing we can learn about this from this disaster is how how societies and species behave under stress, right? In this context, human societies don't seem too different from crabs, unfortunately. We're not very peace loving. We've been at war pretty much forever. And especially during times of stress, shortage of food, water, space, especially when temperatures are increasing now. Maybe we can learn something from the story of the crab, right? Maybe we can try to model our actions and our emergency preparedness and response accordingly. Potentially bake that knowledge into our preparedness. And now let's ask ourselves, coming to the end of this last part of the video, let's ask ourselves, can I do something about it? And the answer to that is absolutely. If you're a normal person, you're not like a millionaire, billionaire, you have a mortgage, you have to go to a job every day, then You force the businesses to print calorie values on the products that you buy. You can ask them to print details of the ecological impact of producing the products that you're buying on them as well, right? You have the greatest power on this planet, which is the power of the wallet. Ask the businesses to print the numbers, the facts, carbon credits, sources of minerals, etc. before you buy the product, right? Look at these things before you buy the product, and don't just be satisfied with flowery text, right? Don't just be satisfied with all the greenwashing that happens across the board. Understand what it means, and don't be swayed by flowery words. If you do that, businesses will have no other option but to provide you with those values, because of course they want to sell their products, and they want you to buy the products, right? And if you're really rich, you're a millionaire, you're a billionaire, then don't treat the oceans like gutters, please. For the sake of your children, your family, your business, for the sake of money, continue money in business. If you have this planet, only then will you have a business that's going on, right? If you have a business that respects the ocean, take pride in that, of course, and have your friends ask themselves the same question, because that's one way to spread this knowledge, right? Because it's not just you, everybody has to contribute. You need to start treating oceans as this amazing fish tank that you have the responsibility and the power to maintain and to curate, right? In pretty much pristine health. Right? Stop waiting for governments to do something. They have a billion other things to take care of. They'll be busy. You have the power. You have the resources. Take the first step. Show your leadership there, and potentially make the planet a better place for everybody, and for your business. It's a win-win. There's nothing to lose, right? So on that, if you've made it this far, I'd like to thank you all for listening in. All the links will be in description. Thank you for now. Bye.